Thank you. Now see, today in the morning I had given you 3 problems, and that in the first one was a baffle tank. The second one is the same conditions. The baffles are not there. Of course, we have third problem. In the second problem, what happened was Ananya has raised a good bet, and then I think she might have cracked the problem. What I explained to you is, first step is what? You should find the NRAs. Then after finding the NRAs, I said you will be given this kind of graph, or as in the first problem, whatever the data I gave you, that is Reynolds number versus power function. I gave you some numericals, and then once you get the Reynolds number, you will identify what is your range, and based on that range you will be taking the power function over. But in case of the second problem, I deliberately did not give the value of power function, only to see whether you will ask me or not. Only Ananya has asked me. Sorry for that. No problem. Others will learn. No problem. So after doing the calculating the Reynolds number, then we have to have this data. Now here, the data which I gave you in the first problem is for baffled vessel. As I said that for the unbaffled vessel, the curve is different. You see my screen. For example, morning I gave for baffle A, curve A. But second problem I gave for D, it is unbaffled tank. So in the unbaffled tank, the power functions will be varying. So after, no, what is the step? At least listen now, learn now. After in an unbaffled tank, after calculating the Reynolds number, we will come to this graph, and here you are seeing my cursor. This is unbaffled curve. Now mark a point on x-axis. So for example, if it is 100, mark a point on it, and then see the curve is cutting, the line is approaching towards the curve. It stops at this point. The reflection of this value, I suppose this value, this is the value. This is the value of power function. But we can't take this directly. This is uncorrected value. What is the corrected value? NAFR into M. Finish. That is the only thing which you should remember for baffled tank. I'll repeat once again. For an unbaffled tank, the procedure is we are supposed to find the value of Reynolds number, which you all did very well. Fantastic. But in the unbaffled tank, the curve has to be identified, and after finding the Reynolds number, mark that Reynolds number on the x-axis, and then you will be having a curve of the unbaffled tank. So try to draw a line parallel to y-axis, cutting that curve at a point P, and the reflection of P on y-axis gives the value of NP. Note down the value of NP, 1.07, whatever it is. But this is called as uncorrected value. Corrected value means what? We should multiply with NFR raised to M. End of the story. M, you have a formula, A minus, that is fixed one. That will not change. Now what is Froude number? Again, it is a bit question. Froude number is the ratio of inertial forces to gravitational force. Finish. Simple logic. What is Reynolds number? Reynolds number is the ratio of inertial forces to viscous forces. So force by force, so it doesn't have any unit. Similarly, Froude number, NFR, is the ratio of inertial forces to the gravitational force. Finish. That is it. I hope it is clear for you, and you have learned something, and next time you will not commit this mistake. Now let us go for the next topic, which is important for us. Yeah. So this now next topic is what? After seeing yesterday's diagrams, everything, now we go for the motionless mixture. The name sounds differently. Motionless mixture, a mixture in which there is no agitator or anything is present.
Then what for this is used? Now, till now we have seen in a process agitation vessel in which it was used to dissolve a gas, dissolve a solid, or suspend a catalyst, or promote mass transfer, promote heat transfer, suspend miscible to mix miscible liquids, to make an emulsion of immiscible liquids also. These are the various functions which we have seen. But suppose if somebody asks us to mix a gas A and gas B, then what can we use this kind of process vessel? As I said, it cannot be used because once you send gas to the diplet, what will happen? It comes into the system, it goes out from the system, and immediately it rises to the top of the system. So what will happen within a short span of time? All the gas will be concentrated at the top one. So what impeller is at the bottom and it will be rotating. So work is done by the system, but mixing is not taking place. So hence, that kind of agitated process vessel will not be suitable for mixing two gases. Hence, in that case, what we should do? We should approach another method called as, another mixer called as motionless mixer. This is the only equipment which is available in the chemical industry for mixing two gases. We have some other technologies, but the principle will be same on it. So basically this consisting of an element. Now what is this element is, you will have a small plate. Listen carefully. You will have a rectangular plate. You please catch the rectangular plate with both of your hands. Okay, what did I say? You will have a rectangular plate. Catch the rectangular plate by both of your hands. Catch them. Now what you do is, right hand side, you fix it firmly and think that you can turn your left hand side by catching it to 90 degrees. And whatever the shape is obtained, that is this element. Okay. Now like this you make n number of elements. So now this one is introduced, this element is introduced into the setup. So this is the inlet gas where A and B will go inside, and we have elements here which are not at all moving. And suppose because of the mixing of gases, if you have heat is evolved, if suppose heat is evolved, or we are supposed to send the steam, in that purpose, jacket is optional condition for us. If not, it passes through the system and then comes out as a mixing. So when the gas enters from this side, it is cut into two parts. So one element will cut the gas into two parts. So one will be moving like this and goes that side. The second will come from the back and then it comes like this. So what has happened? The admitted gas was divided into two divisions. Okay, and then one went from left hand side, one went from right hand side. Like that, dear children, what will happen? We will arrange the second element in this fashion. This plane is what? This is perpendicular to this this line, whereas this line which is there, that is parallel to this line, that is other side. So when it comes from here, again it takes a cut into two parts. So like that, it makes n number of divisions and mixing. Thus the length of this motionless mixture will be very important for us to mix both the gases, and then outlet is coming out. So here there is no agitator is present, nothing is present, no movable parts are there. Hence the name called as motionless mixture has come into the disease. So this is about the motionless mixture which is used for mixing free flowing solids. Let us see the theory part of it. Gases are non-viscous liquids, to certain extent non-viscous liquids. Non-viscous liquids are those liquids which will be exhibiting lesser amount of viscosity. Gases or non-viscous liquid can often be satisfactorily blended. They can be mixed by passing them together a length of an open pipe or a pipe containing orifice plates and segmented baffles. Now please remember, this is a beautiful statement. Segmented baffles you are going to study in heat transfer. So in the heat transfer you will be studying about heat exchanger. In the heat exchanger you have these segmented baffles. If you don't mind, just give me 1 minute time, I will show you even that also. Yeah. Just for a moment. This is the diagram of heat exchanger. Okay. So our gas will be, vapors will be pumped from here, and these lines, if you see, these are called as segmented baffles. If these baffles are not there, what will happen? The gas comes from here, the vapor comes from here, moves differently, and then comes back. But suppose if these are there, what will happen? It comes like this, takes a turn like this, moves, goes, and finally with this. So conclusion is what? Suppose if you keep these are called segmented baffles or orifice. If you keep the segmented baffles, what is the plus point for us is the material stay inside the system for longer duration of time, so that effective heat transfer will be there. So here what will happen? You will be sending vapors and condensate will come from here. But what you send from here, you send the cold fluid, it passes from here and heat transfer takes place, and hot fluid will be coming from here. Okay. So for us, this is not important. What is segmented baffles? These are called as segmented baffles, which try to make the materials to stay for some amount of time, and they say that they see that they will be moving in a particular fashion from the entrance to exit. Okay, that is the meaning of it. No, this is not it for us. This slide. Yeah. Gases or non-viscous liquids can often be satisfactorily mixed blended by passing them through a length of an open pipe or pipe containing orifice plates and segmented baffles. So these are the elements. These are not segmented baffles or orifice. These are the elements which are exactly used in a motionless mixture. Apart from that, you can also use a segmented baffles or orifice plates so that you hold them. Our ultimate aim is what? When the gas is admitted, cut it into two parts, change its direction, mix them. So with this cutting and then mixing, it will take some amount of time, and you can ensure some mixing is taking place. That is the only aim between it. So you keep plates or orifice segmented baffles, no problem. Then, under appropriate conditions, the pipe length may be short as 5 to 10 pipe diameters, but 50 to 100 pipe diameters is recommended. See, if the diameter of the pipeline is 1 inch, so the length will be 100 inches. So you got this point now. So if the diameter of the pipeline is 1 inch, so the length which is recommended is 100 inches. Why 100 inches? Because by the time the gas comes from here, it goes out, we should see that there will be divisions are more rapid, and we are twisting and turning the directions of the gases in such a manner that they are leading to a homogeneity or a blend product. So hence this length is very important. If you decrease this, what will happen? It will affect on the mixing of the gases. So hence the length is important, and the theory says that if it is 1 inch, diameter is 1 inch, the pipeline diameter, then of course we can go up to 100 inches. Then more difficult tasks are accomplished by motionless mixture. Commercial devices in which stationary elements successfully divide, recombine the portions of the fluids. As I said just now, when you try to send the material from here, what will happen? First, it will be cut into two parts. One fraction of the gas moves from left hand side, one fraction of the gas moves from right hand side, and they move and then come back to this place. What will happen now? Again, there is a change in direction. So this plane and this plane is 90 degrees. So now here again there is a different division is there. So with this kind of divisions and then combinations, we are heading towards mixing of gases. Yeah. In the mixture shown in the above diagram, each short helical element, so that is the diagram of a helical element, divides the stream in two. Okay, very good. We know that each element can divide into only two parts, not beyond that. Now, once it goes to the second element, that will be dividing already divided element to two parts. Remember the statement. Once the gas enters the first element divides the gases into two parts, whereas the second element divides already divided gas into two elements. So the divisions increase as the number of elements are increasing. Very good. In the mixture shown in the figure, each short helical element divides the stream into two and gives it 180-degree twist and delivers it to succeeding element, which is set at 90 degrees to the trailing element. So I said that the lines, no. So if you see this line and this line, 90 degrees. This is one line, this is second line. The angle between them is 90 degrees. Okay. Yeah. 90 degrees to the trailing element, that is the next element of the first element. Okay. Then the second element divides the already divided stream and twists it again 180 degrees. So 180 degrees it will twisting, and then already divides into two halves, which is already divided by the first element. So thus for n element there will be 2 to the power of n divisions and then recombinations. So the more you keep, the more divisions, recombinations, and then we are heading to a mixing, provided we should have a proper length. Length is available for us. Then only we can go for this. Over 1 million in 20 element mixture. So you can imagine how the value has come to this one when we use 20 and the number of times 20 to the power of 2, and then over how many times it is going to divide is in, how many elements it is dividing is also very important. The pressure drop for the laminar flow is typically 4 times as large as the same length of the empty pipe. Now, why he brought pressure drop here? Because we have seen in the fluid mechanics that the pressure drop is the only method which can tell us how much amount of the energy is consumed by the process. Okay, because the fluid enters from left hand side, it goes from the right hand side. Because of the friction, because of various factors, the energy decreases. This energy can be predicted directly only by the YouTube manometer. That is one of the tools which is available for us. Then, here in this case, what is the purpose of using a YouTube manometer, calculating pressure drop is, if the pressure drop is more, that indicates that the materials are staying inside the system for more amount of time. If they are staying for a more amount of time, what is the meaning of it? They are divided into more number of divisions. If they are divided for a more number of divisions, it is a good thing for us because we are going towards a better mixing. I repeat once again, in a pipeline, when fluid is flowing from left hand side to right hand side, as the fluid moves from left hand side to right hand side, there will be a drop in the energy will be there associated with the moving fluid. Now this can be calculated by so many methods, but one readily available method is calculating the pressure drop. And once after calculating the pressure drop, what we are going to do is we are going to estimate how much amount of losses are there. That is the fluid mechanics. But here how we are supposed to convert that example, because you used pressure drop. Now pressure drop is what? When the materials are moving from left hand side to right hand side. Left hand side they are coming, but right hand side if they are going very slowly, definitely the pressure drop increases. So this indicates that the materials are holding inside the system for longer duration of time. That indicates that they are divided for longer duration of time. That indicates that because of these divisions, there is a better mixing will be there. That is what we are supposed to conclude it. Then, the pressure drop for a laminar flow is typically 4 times as that of the large as in the same length of the empty pipeline. What is the meaning of this is, for example, you take a pipeline, empty pipeline, and then what you do, sir, you flow the fluid or the gases, and then the length is, for example, 1 meter. You find the pressure drop. For example, RM value you measure it. If you measure the RM value, say for example it is 2 centimeters of mercury, then the same pipeline, same material, if it is used for the motionless mixture, it will be 2 into 4, that is 8 centimeters of mercury. That is the meaning of the sentence, nothing else. Then,
Mixing even of highly viscous materials is excellent after 6 to 20 elements. But what will happen? Pressure drop will increase. When the pressure drop is increasing, you are pumping, the material is not coming from other side. So you have to pump with a greater velocity, greater energy. So the thickness of the pipeline should hold this kind of thing. So that all those things will come into the picture. The static mixtures are used for liquid blending, gas dispersion, chemical reactions, and then heat transfer. They are especially effective in mixing low viscous fluids with the high viscous liquid surface. When we are supposed to mix a low viscous fluid with a high viscous material, we wanted to disperse them. For example, you take ointment. One chemical may be low viscous, other chemical may be high viscous. So how to mix them? So this is how we are supposed to do it. Then the final statement, mixer selection, how we are going to select it, that is very important. There is not necessarily any direct relationship between power consumed and amount or degree of mixing. See, now he says, yesterday we have seen one problem, neutralization, where the answer was 29 seconds. The point is, in the chemical industry, can we complete this in 29 seconds? It's not possible. What he said he has filled the reactor with some acid solution, and at once he has dumped the basic solution, and then he is asking us to calculate the time for mixing, okay, neutralization to be completed. And then with the help of mixing time factor Reynolds number, he found that it is only 29 seconds. But is it possible for us to achieve such kind of reaction in 29 seconds? It is not possible in reality. Yesterday I explained you this point. So hence, there is no direct relationship between the power or the how much amount of power is required for the given mixture and the established results. We have to conduct our own experiment in the laboratory, and then empirically only, after conducting the experiments only, by time, say for example, you brought one mixer, you kept 1 HP pump, but the mixing time is very large. Then what you can do? You can change the configuration, bring the seg 2 HP, then time will be reducing, because 2 HP will be delivering more amount of the power. More amount of the power to the liquid. So flow currents will be different. So like that we are supposed to do experiment, and finally we should come to the conclusion. Then there is not necessarily any direct relationship between power consumed and the amount or the degree of mixing. So how perfectly we are able to create the flow currents, so that because of the creation of the flow currents, the reaction or whatever the purpose for which the vessel is kept, it will be completed. No, such kind of guarantees are not there. When a low viscous liquid is swirled about an unbaffled vessel, the particles may follow circular paths almost indefinitely and mix almost. Okay, these are all okay, no problem. But next, little of the, okay, I will repeat once again. When a low viscous liquid is swirled, okay, very good. What is low viscous liquid? For example, viscosity of a liquid is less. We take the case of the water. Very good. Now, when water is swirled about in an unbaffled vessel, obviously because why we kept baffle? We kept baffle only for the purpose of suppressing circulatory currents. And if the circulatory currents are more, the concept of swirling will come into the picture. Now, in case of a water, if you are not keeping a baffle, definitely all the liquid will be moving in the circulatory field, and which will be experiencing a swirling action. Then, when a low viscous liquid, water, is swirled about in an unbaffled vessel, the particles may follow parallel circular path almost indefinitely, and mixing almost is not at all possible. I already told you this point. Suppose if you don't keep a baffle, then all the liquid will be moving in a circulatory pattern, and once they are all the layers of the liquid are moving at same velocities, relative velocity is 0, then there is no question of mixing. Okay. So what is mixing here, sir? You have added some solids to it. All the solids will move in the same liquid, and the dissolution will take a lot of time. So hence, keep the baffles, stop the circulatory flows. Little of the energy supplied is used for mixing. So see how much power you are giving. I said one example, 1 HP, 2 HP, 3 HP, 4 HP. How much is really used for the mixing is important, because there are so many losses are there inside the system. What are those losses? Let us have the summation of those losses once again before we switch to some other topic. Power is given by the electrical motor first, and then the losses will be there in the transmission, because how the power is connected, how the motor is connected to the machine is very important. All the motors which you have seen in this online classes is direct one. So we have a gearbox. In the gearbox, definitely there will be mechanical losses will be there.
Then we have mechanical state. There you have some losses. Then we have kept a diplet that is also consuming the energy. Then you have a thermo well that is also consuming energy. Then you have 4 beautiful baffles which are also consuming energy. Then whatever is left out, that will be coming out for the liquid, that will be useful for the liquid's motion or mixing or rotation, whatever there by the impeller. That is important. Little of the energy supplied is used for the mixing. If baffles are added, mixing becomes rapid. A large fraction of the energy is used for mixing and relatively less circulation time. Circulation will be taking place. So, if the baffles are present, then what will happen? Mixing becomes rapid, obviously, because what is the meaning of rapid? The time taken for the mixing reduces, or in other manner, because of the keeping of the baffles, we are able to create more amount of longitudinal or axial currents, and then we are going to suppress the circulatory current. There will be radial current, so that there will be some flow currents are there which are useful for our task. Okay. Then if baffles are added, mixing becomes rapid. A large fraction of the energy used for mixing and relatively less for the circulation. What is the meaning of circulation, sir? Here, the amount of time taken by the flow stream to start its journey from the tip of the blade and then come back to the tip of the blade. So if only liquid is present, that is accepted. But in between, if solids are present, what will happen? Even the solids will also stop the velocity of the flowing currents. So this is about the selection of the mixture. It did not give us any guarantee that what type of things we are supposed to use it. But only with our experiments in the lab only we are able to conclude what type of devices are used for this. Then this is the blending and mixing. Today only I am going to put it in a group. Then the next one what we are supposed to see is the dispersion operations. Now, what is dispersion? I said in the previous class that suppose if you have a reaction, A is a gas, B is a liquid, and we require a catalyst for the reaction to take place. I'll repeat once again. We have to conduct an experiment in which A is a gas, it reacts with the liquid, and we require a catalyst, and the catalyst is a solid. So how do we operationally conduct this experiment? First step, check the cleanliness of the reactor, close the bottom wall, pump the liquid first, whatever the quantities are given in the batch sheet, pump that, and then start the agitator, and then after 5 to 10 minutes you find that the flow currents are completely developed inside the mixing liquid. This is possible for us to see from the top that entire liquid is starting moving. That indicates that the flow currents are come to steady state and they are fully distributed inside the bulk of the liquid. Now what you do, slowly add the catalyst, because you are supposed to add the catalyst. Catalyst is a solid, and if the size of the catalyst is small, it's a good thing because its surface area is more. So if you add the catalyst, what will happen? Catalyst is a solid, so there is a chance that if the specific gravity of the solid is more, it may sink to the bottom of the container. To avoid this, what we do is we add a catalyst and then slowly we pump an inert gas. When you pump an inert gas, what will happen? The gas will not dissolve into the liquid, but it rises from all parts of the corner of the bulk of the liquid and thus creates an upward currents, and because of this the catalyst will be uniformly suspended in the bulk of the liquid. Now you can add the reactor number A, so that as soon as you add the reactor number A, you have created a system in which in the volume of the liquid, at any sample you take, you have some amount of liquid will be present and the presence of the catalyst is also there, which is same at all parts of the container. Then we can drive this reaction. So my first argument is dispersion operations are what? You are supposed to suspend a solid in a liquid, or you are supposed to suspend a gas bubble in a liquid. Okay, these are called as the dispersion operations. Okay, that is the meaning. Dispersion means what? I am going to see that a material A is uniformly distributed according to its concentration in another medium. Okay, and that should be stable. If it is not stable, again the problem comes. If the catalyst is settling down, reaction not takes place. So hence it should be stable. For that, what we should do, that is the meaning of this topic. Dispersion operations. In suspending solids, where you are suspending the solids in the liquid phase. How do you suspend a solid in the liquid phase? By pumping a gas. First you dump the solids, then all the solids will come down. Then what you do, you can pump the gas from inert gas from the distributor plate. The inert gas moves from all corners, and as it is going to top, what will happen? It creates upward currents, and these currents will carry along with them the solid particles. Then once this kind of dynamism is attained, I will stop the supply of the gas, inert gas. Then I will admit my second raw material to it. This is the meaning of in suspending solids. Very good. In suspending solids, the size and the surface area of the solid particles exposed to the liquid are fixed, as is the total volume of the suspended solids. Very good. What is the meaning of it? Now, my aim is to suspend a catalyst in a liquid. Let us take that in a reactor, I have taken 1000 liters of water. Best example, to take water or a liquid, whatever, or solvent we can call. Now what I should do? I should suspend the solids. Now when I say suspend the solids, the solid should not dissolve in the liquid. That is the first point. If it is dissolving, it is no suspension. It will be making a dissolution reaction. But what we are doing, sir, we wanted to suspend it. So hence what you are doing now? You are going to select a solid which cannot dissolve in the liquid. Now their sizes are very small. Once you put the solids into the liquid, two things will happen. Suppose if the solid specific gravity is more than the liquid, it sinks to the bottom of the container. Suppose if the solid's concentration is less, it floats on it. So based on these arguments, you are supposed to create a flow current. So the point is, how can I create a flow current? First, I should create some movement, upward movement in the liquid. How it is possible? By keeping baffles, etc., you can do it. But will the flow currents are having strength enough to lift the particles from the bottom and then suspend them? That is important. If it is there, then of course the process is a good process. If it is not there, what you do? Hence, first instead of putting the solids, put an inert gas, pump inert gas, and this inert gas will come from all corners of the liquid from the top, and thus virtually an upward currents are created. These upward currents are helpful in carrying the solids from bottom to the top, and a uniform distribution will be there in the liquid. Then in that case, he says that the size and the surface area of the solid particle, yes, what is the size of the particles? 1 millimeter or 1 by 10 millimeter. Now every solid, we will assume that the solid is a sphere. When we assume that the solid is a sphere, the surface area of the sphere is given by 4 pi r square. So its area is also fixed. So when the solid's concentration is fixed, the sizes are fixed, definitely 4 pi r square is the area which is exposed to the liquid, which is also constant. Okay, and the total volume of the suspended solids is uniform. Why? Because you have already sent inert gas, and then you perfectly suspended the solids inside the liquid system. So now, if it is ready, add the raw material B for starting the second reaction. If not, our prime aim is to suspend solid particles. Okay. Now, let us consider an example of suspended regular solids in a liquid. First, we'll take a small example to understand the statement. Firstly, the solids are not dissolving in the liquid. I'm sorry for that. It is firstly, the solids are not dissolving in the liquid. If they are dissolving, there is no question of suspension. It is only dissolution. Very good. So, firstly, the solids are not dissolving in the liquid. The diameter of the solid particles are fixed because they are solids and they are not dissolving. Let us think that the diameter of the solid particle is equal to d meters, and assume that it should be a spherical particle. Then surface area will be 4 pi r square, and it becomes pi d square. Meter square is the unit. Let us fix the number of solid particles in the liquid as 2000. One numerical you can take, if the size is less, you can go for 20,000, whatever. A numerical which is fixed, okay, 2000. Then the total surface area of 2000 particles is what? 2000 into surface area each particle, which is given by pi d square. So here the answer is 2000 pi d square meter square. Yes, meter square is the unit. The volume of each particle, the volume of a sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube. If you remove r by d, you get the answer pi by 6 into d raised to 3, and the unit will be meter cube. What is this, sir? The volume of each and every particle. Very good. Next point. Thus, the total volume of the solids is again, how many particles are there? 2000. So hence 2000 into again pi by 6 into d raised to 3. Let the volume of the liquid is 2000 kiloliters. Okay, this is the volume of the liquid inside the tank. Okay, that is important. This is also given to us. The diameter of the solid is fixed, thus its surface area and volume is also fixed. And the volume of liquid is fixed, thus the surface area of the solids exposed to the liquid is also fixed. Now this is very important because we want the entire catalyst to be exposed to the liquid first. If the solids are settling down, it's a very bad thing because they will be resting over one another. It will not give a better chance for the reaction to take place. So hence we are supposed to disperse the solids first, so that all the solids will be equally facing or contacting the liquid. That is important. Thus the surface area of the liquid exposed is fixed. Then after suspending the solids in the liquid, its volume is also fixed. Because remember one thing, when you pour liquid into the reactor, when you are adding a solids which are not dissolving in the liquid, there will be definitely a rise in the liquid level will be there. That is the reason why he gave us the value of 2000 kiloliters. But once you add the solids, there can be an increase in the volume should be there. But after increasing also, throughout the entire process, it remains constant. Remember this. Next one. In a gas liquid or a liquid-liquid dispersion operations, my God, a gas liquid, yes, an insoluble gas is there. You are pumping carbon dioxide through water. Carbon dioxide is sparingly soluble in water. But when you go on pumping, what will happen? Some fraction will dissolve. But afterwards, what will happen? The gas will not dissolve, and that will be coming out. So we are using this system for stabilization of the catalyst, whatever is it. So we are supposed to suspend carbon dioxide in water. That is the first condition. Second condition, liquid-liquid dispersion, especially in case of polymerization industries, where inorganic phase has to be dispersed in organic phase, or organic phase has to be dispersed in the inorganic phase, because in some cases the solvent is water and monomer may be an organic material. So this organic material has to completely disperse in the liquid. So hence both cases we are supposed to consider, whether it is a gas or a liquid, whether it is a liquid-liquid, no problem, operation. In a gas liquid or a liquid-liquid dispersion operations, by contrast, the size of the bubbles or the drops that are and the total interfacial area between the dispersed phase and the continuous phase vary with the conditions and degree of agitation. Beautiful statement. Now, you fill the reactor with the liquid, then you slowly pump the carbon dioxide. Now, we have filled the liquid with the liquid is water. So now when you pump the carbon dioxide, from where do you pump? From the dip leg you pump. At the end of the dip leg, what is there? There is a distributor plate is there. For example, you stand in front of a shower, a jet of liquid comes out. So like that, we have a distributor plate. And through this distributor plate, the gas bubbles, we adjust it in such a manner. We adjust the velocity in such a manner. We adjust the pressure inside the distributor plate in such a manner that the bubbles will come out. You might have seen outside that the people will make bubbles from the soap water, isn't it? Some people will make a very big bubble. Some people will make a small thing. It all depends upon how you are blowing air from the other side. So that when you blow the air, what will happen? The soap water, it fills up this air and then passes through the orifice. Drag force will be exerted, and if it is less than the buoyant force and then gravitational force, the bubble goes in the right answer direction. And depending upon your skills, you can make bigger air bubbles or smaller air bubbles. That is different. But in our subject, what happens is that once you pump a gas from the diplet, it comes out from the distributor plate. So you pump in such a manner, you have a rotameter. Through rotameter, you will be pumping gas. You pump the gas in such a manner that gas will come out in the form of bubbles from the distributor plate. Okay, and once they come out, what will happen? Immediately they take the blow of the impeller, and thus the bubbles may become 2 bubbles or 3 bubbles or 4 bubbles, or the elongation of the bubble is called as coalescence. Okay, so hence there can be smaller bubbles will be there, there will be larger bubbles can be there. If larger bubbles are there, they will be taking the blows of the impeller, and then what will happen, sir? They will become smaller bubbles. Okay, they will become n number of bubbles. Very good. Now when they become n number of bubbles, what will happen, sir? All this bubble surface is also exposed to the liquid. What H2O is exposed. So if the size of the air bubble is more, what will happen, sir? More amount of surface area will be exposed to the liquid. Please remember the statement. Means what? Suppose if you have one bubble is there. Okay, the bubble diameter is 1 centimeter. Okay, one example. The bubble diameter is 1 centimeter. So the bubble is there in the water. So what is the area? Area is what? 4 pi r square. Okay. So calculate how much amount of area is there on surface which is exposed to water. That is 4 pi r square. But on the vice versa, if this bubble is divided into a number of bubbles, what will happen? All the bubbles, they have larger surface area. And that's our activity. So once you start the agitator, after filling the water, once you start the agitator, once you pump the gas through the distributor plate, and after it attains steady state, in that conditions, all the statements will be applicable. He says that the size of the bubbles or the drops. What is drops, sir? That is liquid dispersions. The size of the bubbles or the drops and the total interfacial area between the dispersed phase and the continuous phase vary with conditions and the degree of agitation. Vary with conditions means what, sir? For example, in our chemical industry, once a reaction between inorganic phase and organic phase is over, we deliberately add the washing soda to the reactor. Why you will add washing soda? Because after the reaction is over, we will get organic phase and inorganic phase. But they are dispersed. Okay, they were dispersed inside the reactor. But suppose if you want to separate them into 2 fractions, it becomes very difficult. So in that case, we don't have much time. So if you give some time, then separation will take place. Okay, this experiment you will do in your master's also, don't worry. Suppose if you don't have time, you add the Na2CO3.NH2O. Then what will happen? You will have the upper phase and the lower phase. In between, you have an immersion phase. So if the length of the immersion phase is less, then dispersion operation is successful. That is the first case. Because when you add the Na2CO3.NH2O, what will happen? The surface tension decreases. Even in chemical technology too, you study this. When you add soap to the detergent to a liquid, its surface tension decreases, and then the purpose of removing the dirt, everything will be easy. Okay. Now, what are the conditions? Condition is what? What is the viscosity of the liquid, the temperature of the liquid, because all these things are matter. If the high viscous liquids are there, what will happen? The forces etc. the bubble will increase and the bubble may break into a number of parts. They are not stable. On the vice versa, if the temperature is increasing, viscosity decreases. So conditions are this one. And the second one is what? Degree of agitation. What is the meaning of degree of agitation? How we are able to create the flow currents, how much amount of time we are going to take for establishing those flow currents, and what is the turbulence, how fast the flow currents are moving inside the system. These all parameters will come under the factor called as degree of agitation.
Okay, very good. New area must be constantly be created against the forces of interfacial tension. What is interfacial tension? Okay, when you have two molecules, at the surface of the molecule, the force of attraction or repulsion is called as interfacial tension. I repeat once again. There are two molecules are there. Okay, at the two molecules, the interface. Okay, for example, you take a air bubble in water. So the surface area of the air bubble is always under tension because it is inside the liquid. So on the surface area of the air bubble, there are two materials are there. Other side you have water, this side you have air. So hence, what is interfacial tension? Between two molecules, there is a material, there is a phase is existing. On that phase, there can be attractive force or repulsive forces. How much amount of forces are acting on it per unit length? Because interfacial tension is measured in Newton per meter. It is called as interfacial tension. Now, new area must be constantly be created and the forces of against the force of. So all this liquid will be exerting some interfacial area, interfacial tension on the particles. So if you are able to overcome it, small particles will form. That's the meaning of it. Drops and bubbles are continuously coalescing and being dispersed, redispersed. So what will happen, sir? A big air bubble is coming inside the system. It takes the blows of the agitator, then it becomes 3 or 4 air bubbles, and in the bulk of the liquid start moving in the topward directions. Bubbles rise through the liquid pool. Why it is rising? Because it is a gas, its specific gravity is less, and second condition is what? It is not soluble in the liquid. Because of this only, it tries to come from the bottom and escape from the surface and must be replaced by the new ones. Since they are escaping, what will happen? We are supposed to replace it. So hence what I should do? I should continuously send gas through the diplex to the reaction system so that the gas comes out in the form of the bubbles from the distributor plate, enters the liquid, goes from the liquid surface, again new bubbles will be formed from the diplex source. In this dynamic situation, the volume of the dispersed phase held up in the liquid phase is also variable. So if it is coming to the steady state, it will be constant. But if it is not there, if any change in the characteristics, whatever is there, then if the diameter of the size of the bubbles is changing, if one bubble is becoming 15 air bubbles and one bubble is becoming 5 air bubbles, definitely the variation will be there in the holdups, depending on the rate of the rise of the bubbles and the volumetric feed rate. So as far as possible, once you try to see that the air bubbles are uniformly coming out, then you don't alter the flow rate. What is the flow rate, sir? The rate at which you are entering the gas to the liquid. Don't change it. You keep it constant. Then it comes to steady state. If not, all these problems will come into the picture. Statistical averages are used to characterize the system since hold up, interfacial area, bubble diameter vary with time and vary with position in the vessel. Because once in a zone where the air bubble is taking the blow, when it is in the near the impeller area, it takes a blow. But once it rises, what will happen? It is free from the blows of impeller. But remember, it is under the influence of flow currents. Even the flow currents can also change the diameter of the particles. So once everything has come to the dynamism or steady state, then of course all these problems will become constant. Till then we have to wait for some time. Till then, after coming to steady state, we should conduct our experiment. What is our conduct experiment? Yes, suspend the solid particles so that they will be uniformly suspended in the bulk of the liquid phase. Next topic. Characteristics of the dispersed phase. We are supposed to calculate the diameter of these particles which are coming out from the distributor plate. Now, this is a small vessel. In this small vessel, there are some gas bubbles are there and the mixing is taking place. So this is called as the gas bubble, and the other phase, this is called as continuous phase, and this is the dispersed. The continuous phase is liquid. Very good. Now, let the volume of the liquid in the vessel is VL. Okay, this is the volume of the liquid is VL. Let us assume that the gas bubble is spherical. So I have drawn them as near less as spheres. So I am assuming that the gas bubbles are spheres. Okay. Now, thus the volume of the gas bubble is equal to pi by 6 dp raised to 3. This is the formula, sir, which we are supposed to, you know very well. Okay, diameter of a sphere is 4 by 3 pi r cube. So I got it as pi by 6 dp raised to 3. Where dp is the diameter of the gas bubble. Very good. Next point. Therefore, volume of n number of gas bubbles. How many bubbles are there? Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like that, there are n number of bubbles are there. And remember, they have come to steady state. Now the n number of bubbles are changing. They are not becoming n minus 1 or n plus 1, anything else. They are n. So hence I said that once you close the bottom wall, charge the water, then pump the carbon dioxide gas, wait for some time to come the system to steady state. Then we can apply these principles to note down what is the diameter of the air bubbles, whatever it is. Then, where dp is the diameter of the gas bubble. Now, volume of n number of gas bubbles is what? There are n number of gas bubbles are there. So, n into volume of each gas bubble. So, this is the value. Now, hold up means what? The amount of gas holding capacity in the reactor is important. Now, hold up, psi is equal to total volume of the gas divided by total volume of the liquid. Now, what is total volume of the gas? How many particles are, how many gas bubbles are present? Capital N. So, capital N into volume of each gas bubble divided by volume of the liquid. Already I said it is VL, no? So, I have written here pi by 6 dp raised to 3 N into VL. So, hence this is the formula for Xi. What is Xi, sir? Xi is nothing but, hold up. Hold up means what? What is the fraction of gas bubbles which are present in the total volume? This is important for us. So, now one conclusion. What should be the value of Xi for suspending a catalyst? Remember this. So, it should be little bit more. Then only more amount of gas bubbles are there inside the system. More amount are moving from the top. So, hence it is easy for us to suspend a solid particles. This is what? This is the formula. Next one. The surface area of a sphere is given by the formula 4 pi r square. So, hence it will become pi dp whole square. The surface area of n number of gas bubbles, because interfacial tension means what? Surface area. The surface area of n number of gas bubbles is pi dp whole square into capital N. Then, let A is equal to interfacial area per unit volume of the liquid. So, hence A is equal to what? Yeah, this is the surface area of each particle, each gas bubble, sorry, and this is the total surface area of n number of gas bubbles. So, divided by VL. What is VL, sir? Volume of the liquid which is present in the vessel. So, A is equal to this formula. What is A, sir? Interfacial area per unit volume. So, this is the formula number 2. So, now in the formula number 1, yeah, this is formula number 1. So, I should eliminate this VL. I don't want this VL. And in the formula number 2, I have again VL. This I should eliminate. So, by eliminating, by doing max, what will happen? You get dp is equal to 6 Xi by A. This is for what? This is for regular particles. So, now for irregular particles, I will simply downwrite dp. I will write as d bar s. And I say that d bar s is equal as volume surface mean diameter or Sauter mean diameter. That is the average of all the air bubbles which are present and their diameters. That is taken as constant and by this. So, this is the difference between dp and ds. dp is for regular particles, d bar s is for irregular particles. Okay. So, hence the formula mathematically it is equivalent to 6 Xi by A. Then, gas dispersion and bubble. Okay.